All right. Hello, everyone. Depending on when you are watching this, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. You are here with me on the New Beginnings podcast with Jay Jackson. I'm your host, Jermaine Jackson. Today, we have a very special guest, a young lady by the name of April Taylor. She is my former classmate at Blackburn College. This is where we met. And this is the celebration of excellence here on the New Beginnings podcast. And I believe that April Taylor is somebody that you need to know. And so we're going to get into a great conversation with her on a podcast. And you can get to know a little bit more about April, about what she does. Today, we're going to be talking about her growing up as a PK kid. And we're also going to be talking about her great show that she has called Sports Talk with April Taylor. So, April, could you please just take a moment to introduce yourself to the people?
Well, hello everyone. I am April Taylor, as Jermaine has said. Nice to come on. Nice to join the podcast. I appreciate what you're doing. I'm watching from afar. So, way to go, Jermaine. Good job. And so, like Jermaine said, we are old college buddies, met in college and determined that we've kind of been knowing each other somewhat our whole lives and didn't know that through church, through fellowship. And so I'm just glad to be on. Thanks for the introduction. And yeah, let's get into it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, ma'am. So, as April stated, yes, we met on the grounds of Blackburn College. That's where we met at. But the crazy part when we started talking, Blackburn College, as they say now, was a PWI for us. So we were definitely the minority. So we stuck very close together, when you saw people that
Sure.
looked like you. So it was very easy for all of us to come get along. And we got along with everybody on campus. But, when you're the smallest group, you gravitate toward one another. And we were both a part of the Cultural Expressions Club. So
Yes,
what I
that's
learned with April is that when I found out about her and her family, I'm sitting there like, we got in a conversation about church and actually started finding out that over the years, our two churches had fellowshipped a lot.
mhm.
So we were literally at times in the same church, but just did not know each other. And her cousin by the name of Rashawn Pitts, he used to be a choir director at my former high school, Rich East High School. He took over the gospel choir
Yes.
after I graduated. So we just started putting things together. And I'm like, okay, you went to this church, to this church. Well, y'all church used to come here, and we've been fellowshipping for years
For
and
years.
never knew it. But small world. It's funny how things work out. And one of the things that I experienced with April is that her father is a pastor, Pastor John Pitts, and
Yes.
through our fellowship meeting at Blackburn, I got to meet her dad, her mom, her family. We were coming to each other's churches, visiting. I've had times
Mhm.
when I've been allowed to testify, speak at her dad's church back when I was, younger, coming up in college. Wonderful people. The Pitts family is just a beautiful family. But finding out that her dad was a pastor, one of the most interesting things that I find in life, a lot of people look at me, and some people know me that I am a ordained elder in the church. I was not a PK kid.
Okay.
My dad was not a pastor, not a preacher. My mom was a missionary, but yes, I grew up in church my whole life. But there really was no direct person over me that was a preacher. So a lot of people try to figure out, how did you become a preacher? Because everybody think if you're a preacher that it was like somebody in your house was a preacher. That's how it happens.
Mhm.
That's not always the case. God can call people out of whoever he wants to use. But April, on the other hand, grew up with a dad that was a pastor. And in today's world, we call that a PK kid, basically a preacher's kid.
Preacher's kid.
So, April, I just want you to share with us, because I always found the stories interesting of PK kids. What was it like growing up as a PK kid?
Well, I'm clearly a PK kid, but in my younger years, I was really more so of you can just consider an elder's kid or a minister's kid. So my father didn't officially start pastoring to really almost around the time when I went off to college. So somewhere around 2002, 2003 is somewhat of the year that he kind of started his ministry. But in terms of being a PK, we can essentially consider me that for pretty much my whole life anyway. Like I said, he was an elder. My grandfather was my pastor, my father's pastor. I have two uncles that are pastors. So it is the entire family. Like I said, aunties are missionaries. Uncles are pastors and elders, and then my father was an elder my whole life, and then a pastor. So it was definitely a different experience. But sometimes, as a child, when you're really small, you don't really notice the difference because it's just your norm.
Mm-hmm.
So you think, okay, going to church 5 days a week and, you know, staying at church
Yes.
all day on Sunday. You wake up, you're there for 9 a.m. Sunday school, you're there for morning worship, you're there for afternoon service, you stay in between. You just think this is the norm. So early on, it was just the norm for me. It was just what we did. It was pretty much school and church, school and church. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I really started to realize the differences in my life and in my family in terms of just our morals, our values, what we held in terms of what you saw, just at least in my family, what I saw in church was really truly what I saw at home. So my father was a pastor elder at church, and he was very much that as well as in the home. So it was no two sides. It was no, okay, you go to church and you're one man and you're preaching one thing, and you come home and who are you? What type of lifestyle? No. So it was very much the same preached word that was in the church was the preached word that was in the home. Not that we walked around and we were preaching all day and all night,
Mm-hmm.
but he was definitely that model citizen, model parent, he and both my mom. And so that just played a tremendous impact on my life, my values, who I have become today in terms of what I hold dear, the way I've kept myself, the way I hold just my standards. So definitely was a tremendous impact on pretty much my character, my personality, and who I am today.
Now that was beautiful, and thank you for describing what you did, and especially expressing the lifestyle that your parents, especially your dad, lived outside of the church. Amen. Because growing up in church, we've heard different type of stories and stuff. We won't get into that. But it's a blessing. I have that same testimony with my mom. What she was in church is what she was at home, and I
Mhm.
tell people the person that led me to Christ was my mother. Watching her life, she was the best example I've ever seen in my life, and I'm grateful for her. May she rest in peace. So, growing up though in that atmosphere, your granddad was pastor, your dad was an elder. What now people that may not know it, y'all know April can sing. She got a voice on her that she probably don't like to tell people about. She can get real churchy. We had formed a little choir at Blackburn. We found a church to go to out there,
We did have a
and
choir that
right.
I
So
directed.
yeah, so being your
Jermaine played
granddad,
the drums.
dad, why you have to bring that out? I
Jermaine
kept
was
that
the
to yourself.
drummer, absolutely.
So yeah, so y'all see we know each other. Did you ever feel any pressure or there's certain expectations? Like a lot of times you look at the preacher's kid or the pastor's kid, or my granddad is a pastor. There are certain things they may expect for you to do or even not to do. And then, like you said, you came into your own as you got older. Because if memory serves me right, you played basketball in high school. So Friday nights, usually growing up, we had Friday night service. That's conflicted with my basketball. I played football. But as I got older, I would say growing up in church, yes, I learned the word of God. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. But there was a lot of religion that was also there too to try to put like a hold on us to not do stuff. But as I got older and got involved in sports and different activities, and I used to feel like, man, mom, I don't know if I can play varsity football because that's Friday night. I can't be missing church.
Hmm.
But my mother gave me the okay because she basically to me was saying, you have to find your way now. Which I ain't never really strayed away from God. I believed in what I believe, even at a young age. But she was giving me that freedom to say, you got to start figuring some stuff out because you're getting of age now to where I've trained you in a way that you should go. Hopefully, when you get old, you won't depart from it. But I got to start letting you figure it out. What was that experience like for you? Were there ever just any demands or expectations on you? And then, like I said, when you started hooping, started getting more involved in school stuff that could interfere with that 5 days a week at church. Because now I got practice, I got games. I ain't gonna be there all the time. What was that like for you?
So I would definitely say, I mean, it's a little bit of pressure in terms of feeling that you can't necessarily behave like maybe everyone else, because when you're a PK, it's a different set of eyes on you. You know, people hold you. It's almost as if sometimes the way pastors feel that people hold them as if they're their Bible. Although I'm not your Bible, but people look at you that way. So they're looking at you to
Mm,
see what type of mistake are you going to make, what type of mishap. Does April talk like this? Does she do like this? So you kind of are watching what you're doing and what you're saying and how you're behaving. And for me, a little different than I would say my siblings or cousins. I didn't necessarily have a desire to do so much else. So it wasn't a struggle in that, man, I want to be out. I want to be at the parties. I want to be here. I want to be there. I didn't have that struggle, but it was definitely a strict hand, I would say, somewhat of a sheltered life. So, and that just kind of is my experience. So we weren't necessarily allowed to do much of that. But for me, when I got into sports, again, it was more so my desire for sports, my desire to be involved and be in activities. And so my parents never stood in the way of my desire to play sports, to participate. Luckily, most of my games were not on the Friday nights, so I was at Friday
okay.
night service every week. But I definitely had Saturday tournaments. Definitely had occasionally I would have a tournament that would require me to be out of town for a week. Or if I remember correctly, I think in high school I had a standing tournament that was Father's Day. It ran that whole week into the Father's Day weekend. And so I was always at that tournament. So I always missed Father's Day. But that's something that my parents just understood and allowed me to go to. And I was just that type of student. I went to school, went to practice after school. I was in pretty much any kind of club, any kind of organization, stayed very busy. And my parents really didn't discourage any of that. They were all for the sports, all for the extracurricular. Like I said, it was a bit more of a strict hand in terms of parties or this or that, or but as far as sports, no, they were all for that type of environment. So they really just, didn't stand in my way at all. They kind of let me take the reins on what my interest was and just flow with it. But I would imagine if it was anything that was going to pull me away from too many Sundays, it would have definitely it would have been a no. It's like, okay, maybe occasionally, but no, God always came first. And so yeah, that I pretty much just kind of adopted that, and again, really shaped me into what I became. And so when I got into college, that is really when I started to notice the true difference. Because when you're a child, sometimes you by default you adopt what your parents teach you. So it's
Mm-hmm.
almost as if I don't have too many real life experiences. I just believe in God, believe in religion because my parents tell me. But then when you get older, you start to develop that relationship and start to discover, okay, this person that mom and dad is preaching about is real. So when I got to college and people started to notice, okay, you behave different. I remember someone told me, okay, April, you don't cuss. And see, I never thought that wasn't a thing for me. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I just don't. And people were starting to say stuff like that. Oh, you don't cuss, or you don't do this, or you don't do that. And I'm thinking, this is just me. I'm not trying to. So that's when I really discovered that, okay, there is a difference. There is a difference with me. I have a higher standard here. And it was because of Christ in my life. And it was the way I behave. It was the way I carried myself. It was definitely not on purpose, because nobody knew I was a PK when I went to college, right? This was just what you eventually learned because of, again, what I learned as a kid, as a child, and just brought that with me into adulthood.
Wonderful. And so, as you say, you brought that into adulthood. So, you as a kid, you say you were told that. So, I believe my parents tend to believe college. Now you're a grown adult. You definitely have your own mind, your own choices, and you can decide to believe what you want to believe or not believe. So you as an adult now in your relationship with God and Christ, did you stay the same way? Not so much because of what your parents, because you said in college you started to learn to you develop that relationship, which is so powerful that you said that because a lot of us were taught religion or we were taught certain things because it's what we were told. But at some point you have to develop such a relationship with God, a relationship with Jesus Christ, that everything in the Bible has to become real to you because it can't because of
Mhm.
what mom and dad and put in here, what the preacher is saying. Not saying everything that not saying that it's wrong. It can line upon line, precept upon precept with the word of God, but it has to be real to me. I gotta believe everything that I'm reading in these scriptures. We remember kids, they taught us certain verses and we had to remember them for awards and all this stuff. But at some point, I have to believe this for myself. I have to have an experience. I have to know who God is because somewhere down the line, I'm going to have kids. And I got to see if I want to keep carrying
Right.
on these same teachings and values of the word. So, how is that functioning in your life today?
Well, exactly what you said. It eventually becomes sometimes if we've heard the cliche, relationship, not religion. So that's essentially what I've come to learn in my personal life is that religion is one thing and tradition is one thing, going to church every Sunday or doing this because I'm told. But when you get to a point where you reach a hard place in life, where you reach somewhere where you don't have the answers, you don't know where to turn, you don't know what's going on, you
Mm-hmm.
start to remember what were these things that were taught to me as a kid. Okay, pray, read your Bible. It sounds very basic, but when you get in trouble and you find yourself in a situation, what am I
Yes.
going to do? When you pray and when you read your Bible, you start to hear God's voice. You start to hear Him talking to you, and He proves Himself in your life. And so, I've had personal life situations where I know this was nothing but God that got me out of this. It's no
Come on.
way, it's no how. This I'm at a rock in a hard place. This is no how. I'll tell just a quick story, but I had a situation where I had some real estate that I owned and was trying to get rid of it. It was just a horrible nightmare, horrible tenants, and I just could not get out. And I'm saying to myself, what's going on? The bank is calling. They're, wanting to uh, take over this situation. And when I tell you the ninth hour on the it was a Wednesday was the day where was the deadline that the bank gave me. And so I'm just in prayer. I'm God, I don't know. And when I finally reached a point where there was nothing else that I could do, I had no
Mm-hmm.
choice but to lean on God. And I finally got to a point where I'm saying, you know what, God, I trust you whether it happens or whether it doesn't, I just have to trust God. And Wednesday was that deadline. And when I tell you Sunday evening, we got
Oh,
a
come on.
random call from a person that ran into my parents and said, "Hey, does April still own that building? Such and such." I said, "I think I'm looking into potentially, is she looking to buy it or sell it?" Really? They called me right away. So and so is looking to, what are you looking? And when I tell you we had to run, get paperwork together, we got a complete sale drawn up. In 2 days, I met with this
Wow.
person on Tuesday night, signed paperwork, signed a short sale, got this stuff, pulled in attorneys, lawyers, and it just was no way this was going to work out. Wednesday was my deadline. And so Sunday, so that is just a testimony. It's something that I tell because there is no way. When I tell you the bankers, the realtors, they're like, I've never seen anything like this happen. And I know other people have stories of miracles, sicknesses, ailments that come on their body and other different things. But that's just something that came in my mind. And I was very young when this happened. So I was
Mm-hmm.
maybe 23, 24, 25. So this is something for me that was just one of my first, I would call them true trials where I just had to totally lean and depend on God. And when he came up in this ninth hour, it just was, this God is real, you know?
Come on.
That this God is real. And so again, when we talk relationship, when you're talking with God, when you're reading his word, when you're praying, when you learn who he is and he learns who you are by hearing your voice, you develop that relationship and start to believe this thing that you've been taught. And you got to believe it for yourself. And that's kind of what has happened with me over the course of my life as I've gone into adulthood, and I'm much past 24 now. And yeah, God is still showing himself in my life today. So,
Well, come on now, missionary. Come on now and take us on in the service. Amen, amen. I like that. You stirring something up over here.
right.
My God. I know you don't like being called missionary. It's all right though. I'm saying anyway. But thank you for that experience. Growing up as a PK kid, and what God means in your life. You have said some great things that I think is going to bless our listeners, and I'm glad to hear the example that your parents set for you. Like I said, they are beautiful people. I've always smiling, always happy, very generous, loving people, and I think they did a wonderful job in raising their daughter. And I'm glad that you laid hold, like you said. I think me and you are both just very good examples of training those kids up in a way that they should go. Because just listen to you talk. I just remember when I was like 16 and my mom was like, "Oh, son, you're gonna be preaching church," and I was like, "Nah, I'm not. I love God. I love going to church. I'm sure I'll do it my whole life, but I'm not doing that." And I look at myself and I'm like, "Man, that lady was right." Like, how? I never expected this, but it's a blessing to have saved parents to teach us the word of God and the ways of God, and to let us know who Jesus is. I always tell my kids, y'all blessed to have saved parents. Whether you believe it or not. I tell them all the time, you may not value it now, but somewhere in your life, you're going to have to call on God. You're going to have to call on Jesus. You're going to have to hear his voice, know that he brought you out of some stuff. You're going to have to know him. So be grateful for it now. Like a lot of times as kids, I don't believe we always appreciate it as we should. But like you say, you know, I once was young, but now I'm old. But never have I seen the righteous forsaken nor his seed begging bread. And so, thank you for that explanation. Everything you said, I've been blessed enough right there. But we got something else we're going to talk about. Let's go into you and your love for sports. If you don't know, as she's showing her hoodie, Sports Talk, April has a show called Sports Talk with April Taylor. So the first thing I want to ask you is that your love for sports, just where did it come from?
And so this is actually, I mean, the perfect segue because we talked so much about being a preacher's kid and with the influence of my father. So this has actually come from my father, the one and only John George Pitts. And so it's in my family. I have two sisters, so it's just all girls. And so we often tease when I was young growing up. I was just such a tomboy, so was just into just tomboyish type of things. So we often joke that I was the son my father never had. So obviously I'm not a son, but um, I was the one that was gonna, as a small child, as a young girl, sitting up watching Monday night football with him, watching Sunday night football with my dad. And so that's kind of where the love of football came from. And he'll watch NBA, he'll watch the basketball, but football is really his first love. And so I just sat with him and just would watch games. And growing up small in Chicago during the years where we came up, so in those 90s when you're young, Bulls, Chicago, Michael Jordan, all of that is kind of in the atmosphere. I have on my mom's side, I have a cousin that played ball. Female, and I have a couple of male cousins over there that play basketball. So I just kind of
Mhm.
picked up a basketball as a very young child, kind of on my own. My father wasn't really, like I said, a basketball player, so that I just kind of picked up, I think, more so from my mom's side, and just always loved the ball. Always loved the basketball, watched sports with my father, and before we got a rim, would be in the basement dribbling the ball under my legs in the basement. When we did get a rim, thank you, Dad, for putting one up. Would just be out there shooting shots all night. And so I just really developed a real love for basketball. So that's probably my uh, my true passion is basketball. Played basketball in grade school, high school, played college basketball for a little while, not the entire 4 years at Blackburn, but played a few of the years there. So just have a strong love for basketball, and then the football comes from my father. And just yeah, just really love the sports. I love what it brings, the purity, most of it. When we can maybe trust that it is pure, but I just love the just how it's just such a spectator sport. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what team is going to win. You don't know who is going to do what. So that just intrigues me. So yeah, just I love my sports, or at least those sports, not all.
That's wonderful. I definitely am a sports fan. Like right now, we're doing this, doing what we doing. We missing the game right now, but I'm sure we're gonna lock in as soon as we finish.
The
You know.
Lakers are playing right now. Wherever you are, audience, wherever you are watching, this is being recorded right now during the Lakers game, which I have on record, so I will be tuning in. Hoping LA will be up, go up 3-1. We will see.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. That was a terrible statement, hoping that LA will go up, but we're not gonna get into that right now. But we will very soon. I can't believe you made that statement on here. That's messed up. We're gonna get into it though. So, with your love for sports, you have basically started, like, to me, you are a great sports commentator where you review games and certain different trades and all this stuff, and it's called Sports Talk with April Taylor. And I love it because women are really starting to break through, not just
Mhm.
athletes in sports, but women commentators. This is something even on the national, as you watch ESPN, different things. More women, the athletes, are breaking through and they're commentating more. I think a couple of months ago we had a women's month that was celebrated with a lot of women on
Right.
ESPN covering everything. And it's been a very breakthrough. Not saying that women haven't covered sports, but you see it more frequently now. And I remember I saw a podcast interview. I think it's the Pivot podcast where they did
Mhm.
Mina Kimes, and she talked about her background, how she came up and covering sports, and her love for sports. Just you see it more on the forefront, which I love it when a female just love sports, because there used to be a stigma where the men are watching the sports, the woman's in the kitchen cooking, they don't
Mhm.
care. So a woman that can sit down and watch a football game, basketball game, yo, I think that's great. Let's talk sports. That's one of the best conversations that we can have. So, what led you to do Sports Talk with April Taylor and to be doing the commentating and the reviews of all the different games and sports events?
So really, about a couple of years ago, ESPN had kind of a contest, a tournament. It was called what was it? It was first your take, first take, or something like that. So where you submit a video in of your take on a certain subject, and you get the opportunity to debate Stephen A. Smith, or at the time I think it was Max Kellerman, but I think you ultimately went up against Stephen A. And I just randomly one morning said, you know what? I'm going to do a video. I'm going to do a take. And so submitted my video, and actually ended up winning the contest. And so I think I shocked myself because like we said, I've always kind of loved sports, played sports, and just had a love for it. And I can hold my own and have conversations and can always be with the guys and talk sports. But I did, it was just natural to me. So it was nothing I didn't think out of the norm. But when I won this contest, I said to
Mm-hmm.
myself, man, maybe I do have something here. So again, this is a context where you get thousands of people submitting their videos. And so they picked little old me. And unfortunately, when it came time to debate Stephen A., technology failed us when we needed it most. So there was a Skype malfunction on the day of the debate that I had planned with Stephen A. So that was a little disheartening, but just winning that contest and the feedback that I received, ESPN actually reached back out to me after that. They were devastated that I wasn't able to do the interview. The woman that I spoke with encouraged me, keep submitting your videos, keep doing this. We think you're great. Stephen A. thought you were great. They said he saw my video and personally said, I want her. So when you get that type of reaction from people who are in the industry, who do it for a living, it just made me think, okay, maybe you have something here. And so it wasn't right away that I started the podcast because I have somewhat of a shyness, a nervousness in front of the camera, in
Hmm.
front of the screen. I kind of, my confidence needs a little bit more boosting in that area, I will admit. So it took me a while to just get comfortable, and just people continue to push. And so finally, I just one day said, you know what, let's do it. So I started out, and like Jermaine said, you can find me on all of your social media, anywhere from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok to YouTube. You can find me there. And right now, I just kind of submit reactionary videos. Like you said, I commentate on different things, but the future plan is definitely to have somewhat of a podcast, much like what you're doing here, where I can kind of come on weekly and give my insight, give my commentary. And but as we've discussed, life is busy. So I am a working
Understandable.
woman. I'm a mom of two young toddlers. I'm a married woman, so I'm very busy. So I do try to find time to squeeze in the sports talk in my very busy life with my two little guys. So
Absolutely wonderful. Yeah. And soon you're gonna see it up on the screen where you could follow April and follow her sports talk with April Taylor. And I always love how her son Lawrence comes on and gives his picks for different games and stuff. So she'll post videos of little man playing soccer, doing his thing. So I love to see him and his mom together getting their picks going. So she's raising them up the right way, what I'm saying, to be about the sport. So I definitely love it. So, since you are kind of a sports commentator and insider and debater, we're going to get on a few things I want your insight on regards to sports. We're going to try to keep it about football and basketball. So I know basketball is your main one, and we may ask you football ones. But before we end this off here, just got a couple questions for you. Because I want the people to get a preview as to when you get your podcast doing this, what they're going to be getting. And please go
okay.
follow her. I say her information is going to be up. You will not be disappointed. I watch, I like, try to get all her videos, try to make comments. So let's deal with one of the first one, the greatest debate. Is it Michael LeBron? Michael Jordan or LeBron James? Who is the greatest of all time?
Now, look, I'm very much so one of these individuals where I really think era matters. I think era matters. But
Mm-hmm.
being a Chicago native, watching Michael Jordan as a youngster, I'm still at this point, I'm going to have to go with Mike. Um, but I will say, I am certainly do not say that with as much conviction as I used to have, because I think this imprint that LeBron is putting on the game nowadays, just it can't be denied his greatness. But I just think Mike, when you come down to it, the 10 scoring titles, 9-time all-team defensive. Clearly, we know the 6 championships, 6 MVPs, never lost in the finals. I think those things give him the slight edge. But look, if you know me, if you watch my podcast, you're going to hear a lot about LeBron James because I am very much so
Oh,
a
come on.
very huge LeBron James fan.
Come
I have been
on.
his entire career. And watching what this man is doing now in his 20th season, I'm going to say I'm losing. I'm losing that conviction here on a little bit, but we're still going to go with Mike. But LeBron is if he's 1A, if he's A, then LeBron is 1A.
Well, I guess we might as well have a small debate here. It's Mike all the way. Nobody worry about LeBron. I put it like this. Imagine if Mike would have never retired that first year. If he would never retire twice, he would have been had the scoring title. Might have had another championship if they wouldn't have dismantled that Bulls team. He definitely would have had 7 championships. Think about it. Just to insert some football here, they asked Tom Brady about his 7 championships and what was he chasing. He said, I was never chasing Joe Montana. I was chasing Michael Jordan. His
Mm,
thing was that I wanted more championships than Jordan. Joe Montana was his person he idolized in football, but he said, I was never chasing his 4 rings. I wanted to beat out Mike. He already beat LeBron Because we all know. Now, I respect LeBron, great player. His longevity, how he takes care of his body, to come from high school, straight out of that, didn't go to
High
college,
school.
to do what he did is great. But to the level he plays, I'm not surprised at none of his records. Dude, you're 6'8", 270 pounds. Not a lot of people can stop you when you come in with a full head of steam. And this is not the NBA of Jordan's area where they would have knocked him on his tail a lot of time. So he
But
had a
like you
free,
said,
he
that
had a
commitment to your body and that commitment to hanging around and standing around I think I read a stat the other day that everyone that came in the league when LeBron came in is now gone and retired. There's nobody else that came in around that time. So to have that stature, yes, 6'8", 200 and something pounds, and to keep it up at that level in your 20th season still give you 40 points a game, can still give you, and again, to be the all-time scoring champion, as we know, for a man who's not necessarily known as the greatest scorer, to be top five all-time in assists. This man is going to go down probably maybe top three, who knows? But he's top four. He's the top scorer of all time. We know he has the rebounds. We know he has the assists. So when you talk about all-around game, coming out of high school, bringing that trash Cleveland team to the finals when he did back in like his third or fourth year, albeit losing to the San Antonio Spurs. I knew then that, okay, this man was going to be great. He was going to do something just to put these teams on his back the way he has, the way, like you said, he keeps his body, the way he elevates his team, the way the leadership on and off the court. I just think with that expectation placed on an 18-year-old, we know some 18-year-olds now, Jermaine. Now, come on, we know some
true.
18-year-olds. If
We
we give them
do.
that type of hype, fame, and money, I mean, we're seeing Ja right now is almost kind of messing his up at 24. Can't quite handle.
Not Ja. Why
Uh,
you bring
I
Ja?
mean, come on, John Moran. He can't quite handle what's being. So this was 18-year-old young man who has not only met the expectations but exceeded any expectations that we could have thought he would have in becoming the league's all-time scorer and still counting. And look, I know, like you said, Jordan retired, but sometimes I think, what if LeBron would have just got tired and got worn out and retired in today's social media driven league? They would have crucified him. Oh, he's weak minded. Oh, he retired. Oh, he quit. We would not have lived this down had
Man,
LeBron
you want to go play
retired.
baseball. You want to go play baseball. It's other love, a sport. It's like everybody said, what if LeBron would have played football? He couldn't take them hits. He's soft. He can't take them hits.
Man,
Mm.
this LeBron, I do think his size, his stature transfers. That's one thing. The league is definitely a softer league today,
Got that
but I
right.
think with his body makeup, he would have hit it would have transferred errors. He just would have adapted to the heart. LeBron is definitely not a person that shies away from contact or cowers away. He doesn't. He may complain, but they all do. But he doesn't necessarily run from it. We've never
Man,
seen him cower and run from contact, run from. So I think his size alone transfers to any era, really.
man, we finna move on. So I don't even want to talk about LeBron that much.
I know
You,
it almost sounds like I'm more LeBron than Mike, don't it? I mean, it's the
it does. It's
Chicago in me, I
depressing.
think.
It's
But I
depressing.
mean,
I
look,
respect this game. All right. So real quick, before we transition to another question, I got another one for you. We talk about LeBron and Mike. Talk about Bill Russell, Kareem. Why is Kobe disrespected so much? Like he can't be a part of these conversations? Because that's what I'm seeing a lot now. They talk about the Mount Rushmore and all this stuff. Why is Kobe being removed like he ain't a part of this conversation? I want to hear your take on that.
you know what? I think it's that it's too much like Mike for most people. And for most people, you feel like if I think Mike, if I think Kobe, I'm going to go Mike. So that kind of just eliminates Kobe kind of from most people conversation because he mirrored so much of his game after Mike. And most people are still going to give Mike the nod over Kobe. And so that kind of just, uh, to me what kind of bumps Kobe out of the conversation. And look, Kobe is definitely worthy. Look, we know the man what he did. Obviously, 5 rings, but I think his first rings coming with Shaquille O'Neal, with Shaquille O'Neal being the
True.
MVP in those first 3 years. I think kind of make people feel like it was more of Shaq leading the way. Look, we know what Kobe did and what he brought, but I think the dominant presence we know was Shaq. And so Shaq being the first 3 rings, first 3 MVPs, that takes a little bit away from Kobe. LeBron,
Okay.
all 4 of his championships, he all 4 finals MVPs in each of his championships. So he certainly didn't ride anyone's coattails to his rings. So he may have had some help, but it was definitely they're not getting the rings without him.
The 2016 championship was rigged. I said it. Didn't care.
It's a what?
The championship he got in Cleveland was rigged. If
It was
Draymond never gets suspended for that game, Golden State's gonna win that series.
Nope, they had 2 more games.
I ain't
He
trying to
got
hear none of that.
suspended. The series is a 7 game series. LeBron, I get tired of people saying it was Draymond. Look, first of all, it was Draymond's fault. You are a grown man. Control your emotions. That's first of all. 2, you got suspended for game 5. Guess what, people? There was a whole game 6 and 7 that
Man,
Golden State could have done something with this. I don't want to hear about the game 5. If you're up 3-1, guess what? You got an opportunity in game 6. Oh, guess what? You have an opportunity in game 7. So what was going on those 2 games when Draymond came back and scored like 30 points? I think in game 6 or 7 when he came back.
man,
I
put an
think once
asterisk on.
Steph and Clay, they kind of came up small, if I remember correctly. That game 7, that last 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Go
Man,
back and look. Greatest shooter of all time, hitting the side of the backboard. Yeah.
put an asterisk on that championship. I don't care what nobody. Put an asterisk on it. All right, moving on. What is your kind of opinion? Okay, we saw LSU women's basketball win the basketball championship, but this presentation of how the women from South Carolina, even though these women are great athletes, I love what they're doing, but it's the persona of how they're carrying themselves as young African American women that
Hmm.
many sportscasts and people don't like it. But this is the era of the young people we are dealing with. I personally don't see nothing wrong with it. This is that generation. This is what we're in. They may not carry themselves like people expect. What do you think? 'Cause I think sometimes that overshadows their athleticism and what they're doing and how great. Play like Angel Reese is a baller. She is definitely out there killing the game. But some people look at her Instagram and stuff she's doing and they question that, oh, young ladies shouldn't act like this. I don't even want to say some negative things I've heard about these young ladies. And I'm like, y'all worried about them. Y'all got to realize these are 18, 19, 20-year-old young ladies. They're having fun. They're having a life. They're enjoying life. Like, what's up with all the niggas? Think about what they could be doing, but they hooping.
Right.
So, what is your, take opinion words that you have about that, and kind of like how people are trying to drug out the negative about how they carry themselves, in spite of them performing at such a high level as athletes?
Yeah. Oh, well, I just think it's unfortunate. Like you said, there just seems to be a much harsher criticism when it comes to young athletes, young women. I said this even when LSU did ultimately win the title, and we had the little bit of controversy with the Caitlin Clark and the Angel Reese with the, you can't see me type of situation. And I felt that the criticism that Angel Reese received was just unfair in that circumstance. I really felt like not only was it a double standard, it just was a different level of animosity that was aimed her
Mm.
way that was really undue unnecessarily. Like you said, Angel Reese is a baller. She's a walking double double, 20 and 10 type of female. She really puts it all out there, and she has personnel. She has a personality. She has charisma, and I actually like what she's bringing to the game. She's bringing attention. She's bringing some other viewers that maybe your interest is not just basketball, but you like her personality. She talks about her makeup. She talks about what she puts on her hair, her,
Hmm.
different. She talks about all of this, which will bring in some other viewers. So I love her personality. I love that, again, she has charisma. She is who she is, like she said, a young woman. And so I just hope we can, in today's world, be able to adapt and be able to accept the personalities. And like you said, these are young teenage or young adults. Okay, so let's let her be who she's gonna be and appreciate her game on the court. Right, okay, because
Absolutely.
she was the most outstanding player in that championship. So yeah, that she's definitely, I like what the attention that she's bringing to the game. And really, women's college basketball this past year, I just think was great for the women's sport in general. Caitlin Clark, what she was able to do, setting records. Angel Reese, what she
Hmm.
was able to do. You just got some national attention on the game, which I appreciate, just bringing the women's game to a new height. And look, we'll follow these players and they'll eventually get to the WNBA and hopefully be able to bring that attention to continue to for push the WNBA and get attention there too. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Definitely. And man, we ain't even got the time to go into about stuff with WNBA, but that might have to be bring you back onto the podcast. We start talking about that stuff also. I want to switch to another sports topic. Chicago Bears. You being
Okay.
a Chicago native. Personally, and I'm a hardcore Bears fan. No, never have been. I just love football. Really, my favorite football player is Tom Brady. That's right, I said it. I was Patriots fans for years. Tom Brady came number last person in the draft, 7 rings on his finger. Yes, he was carried by defense for years, but whatever.
I
Went to the
mean, I'll give
Buccaneers
you
and
great.
share. You
He's the
know,
GOAT.
but
I'll give
but the
you great.
Bears finally made a smart move. They got Justin Fields. Been watching him since he was in high school. Went to my favorite sports college for football, Ohio State. So when they got him, I was like, now I gotta faithfully watch y'all. Because y'all got my boy. With how they have loaded the team up this year. And we early on, if everybody stays healthy, that they can get this line blocking. A little worried about the defense because you got rid of Roquan Smith, some different assets. I know it's rebuilding. What is your early prediction for the Bears based off their draft picks, the trades, and everything they did? The emergence of Justin Fields, because they're saying now, I was watching Get Up this morning, watching First Take and stuff, and they were saying that they believe he's on a track to be like a Jalen Hurts. Once they get the right pieces around
Mhm.
him, that he's coming up. It was one sportscaster saying, well, they should have traded him. I was so hot this morning, like, you ridiculous. So, what is your early prediction for the Bears in this upcoming season?
Listen, listen. I agree with you. Whoever that sportscaster was, no, absolutely not. When you have this type of talent. You don't let this talent walk out the door. Clearly, we saw that the way this man ran the ball on last year. The hope is that he is only going to get better. He's only going to enhance. Clearly, you pick up wide receiver and DJ Moore, so you immediately get him a true number one wide receiver. So you're going to pair that with Mooney and you got Claypool. So I think offensively, we picked up some pieces. Foreman, I think you picked up a few running backs. And so, like you said, we're shoring up the defense, picked up Tremaine Edmonds, picked up a
Mm-hmm.
few pieces on this defensive end. You picked up some offensive linemen in the draft with that ninth overall pick. So I really think, look, I think the playoffs are not out of the question for this Bears team. Look, we know what this division has been. Aaron Rodgers has unfortunately controlled this division for the most part, and unfortunately, and for us as Bears fans, have ruled the Bears. And so, with Aaron Rodgers departing the division, going over to the Jets, I think Green Bay is no longer going to be. Look, they're going to be somewhat in the rebuild themselves, right? So they're going
Mm-hmm.
to have a first year quarterback. We'll see what Jordan Love is able to do. But I think with Aaron Rodgers leaving and Green Bay kind of, we don't know what we're going to get for them. I think this will leave the door open a little bit for this Bears team to maybe make the playoffs. Look, you have 3 wild card spots now. So we'll see what Minnesota will do. We'll see Detroit obviously play really well towards the end of the season last year, so they're going to have something to say about it. But I think again with Green Bay kind of we're looking at them not to be the powerhouse that they once were. I think the playoffs could be a reasonable expectation for this Bears team. It really could.
Down with it, man. I hope y'all listening to this. How she giving y'all a review of the sports. So you gotta go watch it. You gotta go follow Sports Talk with April Taylor. All right, a couple more questions here. Do you think that Chicago is one of the best sports towns?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, you got the Bears, you got the Bulls, you got the Cubbies, I guess White Sox for certain people,
Well, time
but
out, time out. Are you? Wait a minute. Wait, now you might have lit a fire. Are you not a South Sider? You're a Cubs fan.
you know what? I'm a South Sider, but you just love the Cubs in the house that I'm in.
Ooh, a lot of
Uh,
people wouldn't like that.
you love the Cubbies in the house that I'm in, but look, Chicago is a great sports town. Obviously, we've talked about Mike, we've talked about the Bulls. I know Mike is long gone, at least from the Chicago Bulls, but those six rings still stand. And it's just a great sports city. I really think it is. When you hear athletes come over, I forget one of the picks that the Bears just picked up already on his Twitter feed. I'm losing the name. Said, "Oh, I love Chicago already." So we love our athletes. We take them in, and we're passionate about our sports. Look, if you're listening to ESPN 1000 and Carmen and Yurko and Waddle and Sylvie, look, this is a
Mm-hmm.
great sports. Shout out to Waddle and Sylvie. I had an opportunity to work with them a little bit too on ESPN 1000. So yeah, I think this is a great sports town. Absolutely.
Wonderful. And let me stop hating on you with baseball because Yankees been my favorite team for years. So
Yankees, Tom Brady. Are you from Chi?
I'm here, but I gravitate to certain players. I mean, okay, real quick, me football, I like certain players. Like one of my favorite running back used to be Emmitt Smith. Then when he got old, I got caught on with Eddie George. Eddie George. Usually, a lot of players that come from Ohio State, that's who
Okay.
I rock with when they go to the NFL. I can care less about what team they on, but I just loved a
Now you
lot of
know who was an
athletes.
Ohio State fan. Now he didn't go to college, but you know
Who?
who loves most things Ohio State.
Who? Your dad?
LBJ.
Really?
And LeBron James, I mean, obviously he came straight out of high school, but he supports most thing Ohio State. I mean, his Bronny done made his own decision. He's going over to USC, so didn't go that route. But yeah, LeBron James is a big Ohio State fan for the most part.
That's why I said I could rock with LeBron James. I'm down for Ohio State. So a lot of athletes come out. That's why I follow because I love NFL. So I like. Am I like a big sport? No, I love the game of football. Like I mean, my favorite player. I tell people now, who your favorite player? My son. He's in high school,
Okay.
but that's my favorite player. If God bless him to make it all the way, then I have to rock with whatever team he's on. And since you want to bring up LeBron James, let's take a quick pit stop. Who you think gonna be better, Bronny or Bryce?
Bryce.
Thank you. Finally, I needed that.
Bryce. Look,
I've been
that
telling
first of
everybody
all, that
that.
that size. Look, you can't. God, he has the size of LeBron one, and we say that part of LeBron's greatness is just what God blessed him in, just his sheer size. So I think Bryce has that. Bronny doesn't. We see some of the highlights of Bronny. Definitely, I think both of them are going to be great. But Bryce seems to me that it's something special about him with his
Mm-hmm.
size and with that second kid. Yeah, I just for whatever reason I feel like he is. So we agree there.
Yeah, I'm rocking with. To me, Bryce just has that natural of like his dad. Yes,
Yeah.
LeBron's very intelligent. He knows the game, but you could tell Bryce, whatever LeBron got, like Bryce just got it. Bronny's great, but I feel like Bronny got to put in a lot of work to produce what he produce. Like Bryce, I ain't saying he don't work, but I feel like it's just gonna come naturally for him.
Hmm.
He just like when you see him play, it's just so effortless. Like he just out there having fun. Where Bryce out there, he work, he put it in, but Bryce like, man, this is just a game. I'm out here doing my thing. So things I be debating with people like, no, I think Bryce gonna be better than his brother. They both gonna do their thing, but I'm team Bryce. For you, do you prefer watching professional sports or college?
Now, I actually prefer watching professional sports. I know a lot of people will say there's a little bit more purity when it comes to college sports because you
Mm,
have athletes that are not necessarily, well, to a certain extent, getting paid with the new NIL deals and stuff like that. Name, image, and likeness. These college players can now get paid, but there seems to be, for the most part, still just a true love for the game for the younger athletes, but I'm just a professional to my core. If it's NBA, if it's NFL, I'm gonna turn on professional sports first. But I still, will tune in to my college sports. Definitely March Madness with the men's game. I'll pull up, college football. Definitely get into the playoffs and the bowl system. So I'll definitely watch. But at my core, I think I just I prefer the professional sports. So.
gotcha. Last one for you. We're gonna keep it in Chicago. If he would have never got hurt, how great do you think Derrick Rose would have been?
Oh man, you know what? I think Derrick Rose. I mean, he was the MVP already. What, 23 was it? Youngest MVP, something like that. I definitely think in terms of Chicago, he would have been. I'm not saying the next Mike, but he would have been the next person to definitely. I could have saw him get in a ring. With this
Mm-hmm.
team and just being one of the greatest players to go down in this league. The athleticism that Derrick Rose has, the power that he would just drive to the rim. What we see in Westbrook now, obviously that was Derrick Rose. Him and Westbrook, kind of this athletic point guard, can jump out of the gym. Yeah, I definitely think his injuries derailed him. It was just didn't like to see that, and but even towards the end of his career, he developed his shot even more. Derrick Rose
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really a shooter when he first came in, but really started to work on that jumper a little bit more. So, no, definitely, I think Hall of Famer, one of the greats. It may be a ring or two, even if he didn't stay in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think if he would have stayed on that trajectory, yeah, that he would have been one of the greats. I mean, he still is one of the greats, but just even more dynamic.
Thank you, ma'am. And I know you talked about your high school basketball. Can you shout out your high school that you hooped at back in the days?
Thornton High School, that would be the Wildcats.
I can't cheer for them. They're in the same conference as my kids. We beat them all the time. So sorry.
Well, we were the conference champs my senior year. So yeah,
I was out of high
as
school
far
by
as
then.
the women are our women are concerned, but
Yeah, my son busts them in football on the regular. My daughter runs track against them, and she don't lose to them. So but so yeah. But I like Thornton. A lot of nice people I know from there. Great community there. Every time we go to the meets or the football games, they are so supportive of their children. My nephew graduated from there last year, so I knew you went to Thornton. I would just, sometimes I get people to announce their high school so I can see, I know my kids go against that school. I'm like, I'm not cheering for them. But shout out to the Thornton Wildcats, Harvey, Illinois. I do love the community out there. One thing I will say about that, they support their kids. When I see the parents and the faculty, all the people that are out there at the sporting events, I love how they come together for their children. And definitely that's what our kids need. We got to be here to support them and build our communities. One thing I always say to these, my kids go to Rich Township, and I tell them a lot of times, the reason sometimes y'all don't keep some of our best athletes, our best kids, because y'all keep getting people that's not from these communities. Nothing against these teachers, principals, coaches, but
mhm,
our kids need people. They need to see the people that's here. Those of us that grew up here that came back. Some people move away and stuff, but if y'all would
right.
bring more people from the community and allow us to be involved and have a say
Mhm,
so, it'll impact our children more. So definitely want to get that word out there that, if you're in your community, get involved in your kids' school, even if you don't have kids. Just show up for somebody, because that's going to make the community stronger. So I definitely want to give a shout out and show love to the Thornton Wildcat, because every time I go there, they always support them kids, cheering for them. Even one of they people was talking to my daughter once. I'm like, lady, you coaching my daughter, you a Thornton Wild, but that was dope though. They just there for all the kids to be successful. So I love that. So yeah.
listen, it definitely, yeah, fostered my, little career, whatever career I was, but I really developed that my love for basketball. I'm playing basketball right there at Thornton, so right there in that athletic department. So, absolutely.
Wonderful. So as we close this episode out, is there anything else, April, you want the people to know about you? Any last words?
No, like I said, I mean, I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate a shout out to Jermaine. Look, celebration of excellence here. So you are doing a wonderful job. So look, I'm giving a hand clap to Jermaine. Thank you for this platform to be able to just share a little bit with the people who I am, share a little bit about what I'm trying to do as far as sports it related, and just I just appreciate the opportunity. So to be able to share, talk about my faith, talk about my relationship with God, my love for sports, all of it. Had a wonderful time. So just thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome, man. To all my listeners out there, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for y'all support. This is Jermaine Jackson signing off with April Taylor here on the New Beginnings podcast with Jay Jackson. Until next time, y'all have a great one.